Guys, come here, come here. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how I made this from start to finish. This is solid brass. I'm gonna use a process called the lost foam casting method. I created this F-bomb out of foam. I then melted down some brass in my metal melting furnace and cast this. Oh, and I also show you guys how I made the base. So let's get to the video.
I carved the pattern out with my CNC machine, the Fox Alien 4040 Masuder. I designed a part using a free program called Inkscape. It's actually a two-part foam mold. This is the first part, and then this is the second part. And I cut out the notches so I can easily push them together. I didn't film it, but I actually dabbed a little bit of glue to really hold it together. Once it was dried, I then applied joint compound mixed with water to the foam. Doing this gives it an exceptional surface finish when cast. Also, I did a heavy coat of this and I added sand to the mixture because when casting brass or any other heavy metal, it tends to bleed out of the plaster coating. So now that the foam pattern has completely dried with the drywall joint compound, I'm now going to bury that foam pattern in some dry sand. The sand has to be dry because if it's not dry and has any moisture in it, it will then affect the plaster coating that you gave the foam. Bury the foam or the container all the way to the top. I like to vibrate it midway or at least as soon as I cover the pattern. I'm now going to put in a pouring cup or a pouring basin, and this is going to be where I'm going to be pouring the molten brass. Fill in the inside up to the foam and brush away the sand to expose it. So this is the brass I'm using. It was gifted to me from a friend, and I'm going to make the F-bomb for him. I hope he likes it. I have different crucibles for different metals, and this is the crucible that I use when I melt brass. I'm going to put the brass pieces into the crucible, fill it all the way to the top, and then I'm going to bring it out to the furnace and light the furnace and start melting down these brass plugs. I like to put a piece of cardboard between the block on the bottom of the furnace and the crucible. Most of the time, it helps keep the crucible from sticking to the block. The brass is about 1900 degrees Fahrenheit. It is ready to pour. It is totally molten. I'm going to remove it from the furnace using my homemade lifting and pouring tong, and now pour it into the mold. The brass will instantly vaporize the foam and take the shape of it. After some time has passed, I am now going to pull it out of the sand and dip it into some water to cool it off a little bit quicker. and sometimes it's so heavy it just pulls right out of the can. So as mentioned in the beginning, when using a heavy metal with lost foam casting, it does tend to bleed out. And you can see how it bled out on all of the edges. So normally adding the sand to the plaster does help, and I'm sure it did help somewhat, but it was not a clean cast. So unfortunately there is a lot more cleanup that I planned on doing. So after a long, extensive amount of time I spent on this, it is now clean and shiny. I think it came out excellent. So let's see what it weighs. £2.128. It's pretty heavy. So now I need to drill a hole in the bottom so I can mount it to the base that I will be making shortly. I'm going to drill it and tap it using an 832 drill and tap set. Going back to my CNC to make a 3.5-inch square with rounded edges base. I'm going to use my router to give the edges a little bit of an indentation that I think looks excellent. And lastly, add a little bit of stain to that base. And I'm going to be using a cherry finish. I think the cherry looks excellent. Now that they are both finished up, it is now time to connect them both. The brass F-bomb is now fastened to the base using a number 8 screw. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, smash that like button, comment below, and let me know what you guys think. Stay tuned for my next video.